Hello and welcome to the Chop Shop. My name is Dion Tucker. In this video, I'm going to give you some tips that can help you improve your slide technique on the trombone. This is my first instructional video of 2021, and I hope everybody had a safe and happy new year. I look forward to sharing lots of new content with you in this upcoming year, and a special thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel so far. If you haven't done so yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can get a heads up on whenever I put out a new video. Let's look at a few different things that can help us with our slide technique. Let's start with our grip and how we hold the slide. For me, I like to use 2 fingers on the bottom of the slide and my thumb on the top. Sometimes I'll use just 1 finger on the bottom and my thumb on the top, but 99% of the time it's 2 fingers on the bottom and my thumb is pushing the slide to those 2 fingers. So let's look at the advantage of using some of these different grips. And when I use 1 finger at the bottom of the slide, it definitely makes my wrist feel a little bit more relaxed as I'm going through the motions. One thing you want to be careful of though is, first of all, that your finger is not sticking out too far and that it's not making contact with the bell as you move back and forth. Another thing is that as you bring your finger in, there's less area for the slide to catch as you're moving it outward. So you want to be careful that you don't lose the slide as you're moving it back and forth if you just have 1 finger there. So let's look at some of the advantages of the 2-finger grip. It definitely gives you that insurance that the 1-finger grip doesn't have. So usually I'm using this part or this part of my finger to catch the slide as I'm pushing it forward with my thumb. So I'm not as worried about the slide falling off as I move it outward. Now, one of the things that can happen with the 2-finger grip is that your arm can get really involved in the slide movement. The wrist movement is really important. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But as you're holding the slide with 2 fingers, make sure your entire arm doesn't become attached to the slide movement. Now, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of having good slide technique is having a fluid wrist motion when you play. The hand and the wrist move very naturally in this motion, so we want to incorporate that into our slide technique. The difference is we want to have the back part of the hand facing the outside of the body, so instead of this, the motion becomes this. Almost like if we were throwing a dart. Now, how that's incorporated into our slide technique is with my 2 fingers at the bottom, I'm going to create almost like a throw and catch with the slide, where I'm pushing it with my thumb and I'm going to catch it with that surface I talked about, but only using my wrist. I'm just using my wrist to create that motion. What this wrist motion should lead to is a lot less movement coming from your elbow. Depending on how long your arms are, you should be able to reach from 1st to about 3rd position without having to move your elbow much. If you can just engage the wrist and push the slide to the fingers, you should be able to get from 1st to 3rd with very little movement from the elbow. Now that leads me into my next point, and that's dividing the horn into different sections. So from 1st to 4th position, that's section 1. And from 4th position out to 7th position, that's section 2. So while I'm in section 1, I want to limit my elbow movement as much as I can and use mostly my wrist to get between 1st and 4th position. Now, when I go to section 2, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm just going to extend my elbow and now try and use that same wrist motion from 4th to 7th position. Now, another really important part of having good slide technique is having a command of how and when to use your alternate positions. Alternate positions are really important because it can help us limit the amount of movement we make back and forth with the slide. If we can keep the slide moving in one direction, it'll make things a lot more fluid for us, and it'll make faster passages a whole lot easier. I'm going to demonstrate through a few playing examples how we can use these tips to help develop our slide technique. Let's look at this simple exercise that can help us with our slide accuracy. I'm going to go back and forth in just a half step, starting in first position. Let's pick a concert B flat. And what I want to do is I want to move my slide quickly to the next note. I'm not going to use any articulation, so there will be a glissando in there, but the objective is to find the destination of where the slide needs to go and use the wrist motion of the throw and catch that I was talking about, or the push and catch, to get the slide to that destination as quickly as possible. Now, when I add the tongue, it should just be a slight embellishment of the airstream, but the mechanics of what's happening in my slide should be the same. Now, as I move my slide and go to third position, I want to keep as much of my wrist involved as I can and not involve the elbow too much. And now I'll add the articulation. Now, once again, this will vary depending on how long your arms or your fingers are, but see how far you can get from first position without moving your elbow and only using your wrist. You can make it to about fourth position. So then from that point, just add the tongue and make sure your slide is moving at the same speed. So let's see how we can apply this to a scale exercise. I'm going to take the first Clark study in the key of F, and I'm going to try to use as minimal motion with my elbow, because the positions are between first and fourth position. So I'm going to play this exercise while mostly using my wrist to execute it. Now, where that's going to pay off is if I speed that up, I don't have to use as much back and forth motion. So now take that same exercise and play it up a half step in the key of G flat. Now what you'll notice here is that this is where alternate positions come in handy. If I play it with all regular positions, it's going to create a lot of back and forth movement. So I'll do it one time with regular positions and then one time with the alternate positions. And I want you to notice how much more fluid my slide motion is. Now I'll do it with alternate positions, and you can see how much more fluid the slide motion will be. Now it's going to help you, especially if you have to speed that line up. Everything is right there, so you can really just use your wrist to get to the positions. Having good slide technique can go a long way to helping you become a better trombonist. Hopefully a few tips in this video will help you out along the way. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out, and I'll see you next time at the Chop Shop.